What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. You know, they say there's two types of tax systems, those for the informed and those for the uninformed. It's kind of like we talk about with healthcare, having the older broker and the newer type. So today we've got a gentleman that's speaking at high stakes advising, going to be talking about tax strategy, how to keep the money in your pocket, so many different ways, learned a ton from him. Uh, I'm not going to go over our strategy today, but at the event, we're going to release a phenomenal strategy to save me multiple six figures in taxes. Today, we're going to dab a little bit about it. And my friend from the Cash Flow Doctor, Eric, welcome to the show, my friend.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to share some strategies and some conversation with your community here.
Yeah, Eric, it's like until you start, you get past, you start in a brokerage business, and you're in the accounting business that's
Yeah.
very similar to ours. So, guys that are listening, when we spoke at the first high stakes advising, I said, there's the older broker, and then there's the consultant, the strategist, and it's the same thing from the accounting world, the old historians and tax strategists, which Eric is, and as you start to make more money, you're vesting at your company, but then all of a sudden you get to the point and go, oh wait, I got some money on the side here. Wow, they're clobbering me. I got to start doing something about it. It becomes your number one expense. And so that's when you want to look out for somebody, Eric. And, we had engaged earlier, about a year ago or so. And, within a few minutes, right? Which I love about Eric is, Eric, we talk about charging people consulting fee, no free quoting, right? Insurance brokers go out there and they quote for free and say, give me the business. And we told him, charge a consulting fee for your advice. Now, Eric said, hey, look, it's a fee, and then I'll tell you what to do. And I guarantee, Craig, this sound familiar? I guarantee you 2x savings or the money back, right? Exactly what we taught everybody. You have nothing to lose, right?
Right.
Makes sense. And so, yeah, no brainer here. And so, today, let's talk about a little bit about the current market, what's going on. We've got entrepreneurs that are newer in the business, ones that are going to start making money. Let's just start with the climate. I know they had the whole IRS thing going. What's going on it from people being worried of the auditing world? Because that's on my mind too, is what do I got to worry about and be careful about in this whole domain of what's going on with auditing and the IRS?
Yeah, absolutely. This is kind of unprecedented right now. I've been in the tax advisory space for over 13 years now. And you might have heard or you might have seen Congress and Senate passing bills and talking about increasing budgets for the IRS and 10,000 new agents and armed agents and all these things. And I'm not here to scare any of you, but I will tell you the number of audits that I've seen come through from the IRS, and surprising ones too, even where prospective clients or folks that have the IRS coming to their door. I've seen more volume in this IRS enforcement activity this year than I have seen in the last 13 years. So it's really important for many of you. I was an insurance broker in the past before I got into the tax and accounting space. So I get it. Like many of you are out there working as advisors to your clients, maybe making great commissions, and you're sitting here, just like what John was saying, you're looking at your end of year tax return and saying, why am I getting clobbered so much? And then so you start asking, your tax advisor if they could be more creative with deductions. But at the same time, too, there is this concern of, hey, if we get a little bit too into the gray area, what are my concerns with being audited, right? So the IRS, as you might be seeing, is really stepping up enforcement activity. And like I said, I've been in this space for 13 years. I've seen more enforcement activity just in the last 6 months than I've seen in the 13 years I've been in business, which is kind of crazy.
And what is it? And what are they just? They're just deciding they want to come after people, or it's why are they going? Why are you seeing it? Like, well, I know they tried to pass 80,000 agents, which is mind blowing, but it got thrown out. So, like, what is it? What are we worried about, or what are they seeing? They're just trying to find more money because they can't figure out how to manage $30 trillion. So let's just tax people more.
Exactly. At the end of the day, and I love to share with all of my clients and your community too, I'm politically agnostic. I don't really care what political party is in office. At the end of the day, we all know that government is inefficient and we're paying a lot in taxes as consumers. And we all know that because of the different stimulus bills and the COVID provisions, the government is in a lot of debt. And the only way to collect and balance their budget is by increasing taxes. So inadvertently, what ends up happening is, folks in Congress and politics are always like, oh, we're going to chase the millionaires and the billionaires for the taxes. But what a lot of people don't realize is there's this one tax code called alternative minimum tax back in the 70s. And when they passed it, Congress passed it to try to chase after 5 or 6 uber wealthy people that was just evading taxes. But they never adjusted for inflation. And now AMT ensnares many Americans, many upper middle class Americans that are making $200,000 per year, $150,000 a year, far from being a millionaire by this part of the tax code. So we're seeing that happen now. They increased this enforcement activity to chase after the millionaires, but what's going to end up inadvertently happening is it's going to chase after a lot of self-employed folks, a lot of small business owners, a lot of advisors like you and I. And that's why it makes it really important to, number one, have a solid tax strategy put together for you. But number two, the tax strategist or the tax advisor that you work with, the products or the advice that they recommend to you, that it's effectively audit proof, right? Where the IRS, when they look at it, they're like, you know what, this makes sense. This looks good to go. And the best thing you could ever get from an audit is an NC. NC stands for no change. The IRS audits it, looks at it, examines it, kind of like a proctology exam. They look at it and say, you know what, actually, everything is on the up and up, and you're using the tax code exactly, NC, no change. And that's what we strive to do in our practice.
Yeah, so this is some of the stuff you're going to talk about at the event and go into detail on, because I think, look, as an entrepreneur, one of the benefits is deductions, right? And so bookkeeping, you have a firm handles bookkeeping, making sure that, as I learn about taxes, is classifying the deduction. So, talk to me for a minute without going too much detail that you're going to release at the event of categorizing deductions, and you can tell them at the event how to do certain things to get more deductions. Because at the end of the day, when you're in a 40-50% tax bracket, or 55 like Craig, because he's in lovely California, and you got to figure out how to get a deduction for everything.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The biggest thing is many of us, we run businesses. Many of us run it out of our homes. Many of us, we have a lot of personal expenses that also coincide with our business expense. So what we strive to do is help our clients see and correlate or connect some of these expenses that before were not deductible and turn them into legitimately deductible expenses. I have, many clients are like, hey, we go on our annual family vacation and we spend, let's say, 5 or 6 or 7 thousand dollars per year to go on these big end of year vacations. Can we do anything with it? And so normally what I would say is like, hey, what you should include and incorporate into that vacation is a work opportunity or a planning opportunity. Maybe go out and you're looking at real estate to invest in, or you're doing an end of year retreat where you're planning for the upcoming year. And then what you end up doing is you begin and you end your trip with business planning activities, and everything in the middle itself allows you to encompass a large chunk of that vacation, not all of it, but a large chunk of the vacation for deductions. So what we love doing is we don't like having our clients spend more money to get deductions, because that's what a lot of advisors say. Oh, buy this truck. Oh, buy this hardware, buy this stuff, invest in all these things that you may not need. That's kind of like a dog just chasing after its tail. What we love to do is look at what you're currently spending and things that you might not have considered as a deduction, and find legitimate ways to convert them into deductions, either by structuring those differently, documenting them in very specific ways that the IRS likes to see, or utilizing them in ways that are effectively business expenses.
Got it. So let's go over to maybe the strategy side, right? We talked about, CPAs, and I've had a few, and tax strategists. The great thing is you can obviously have more than one tax strategist, but what is it that we can do? Because some of the advisors are on here, maybe they're newer and they're starting to make money. It's all going back into business. They're not making that much money after deductions, putting it back into business, which is obviously usually the best investment. Then they get to a point where, okay, I've got some cash flow on the side and I got some money and I want to start investing in it. And then, oh shit, wait, every dollar I make now, they're taking 50 cents. This sucks. What do I do here? And so talk to me a little bit about what you could talk about the event for income shifting strategy, stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. So when it comes to tax strategies, I like saying that there's three pillars to success in your tax strategy. The three pillars are there's income shifting strategies, number one. That's where you're shifting income from a high bracket to a low tax bracket. There's also time shifting strategies. That's number two, where we're delaying the payment of tax to some point in the future. And in the real estate world, that's like the qualified opportunity zone fund or the 1031 exchange or like 401ks and things like that. And what we really love doing is code related income shifting strategies. This is where we're using the exact code against the IRS to allow clients to potentially pay upwards of 0% on their tax bracket, right? So what a lot of folks don't realize is there are opportunities to legitimately pay $0 in tax to the IRS and allow you at the same time too to invest in cash flowing and cash producing assets that are going to create generational wealth for you. And I mean, that's a home run when you could create, take this capital that you have. We have a lot of clients that are making 300,000 to a million plus per year. And you're like, hey, Eric, we're only spending $200,000 per year on a lifestyle. We would love to put the rest of it to work, but we're paying 50 cents on the dollar for every dollar we bring in. Is there a better way of doing it? And a lot of folks are looking at like cash producing assets. What cash producing assets can we put into place that will create generational wealth, right? So what we do is we help clients structure that in a really intelligent way where they could get massive tax deductions up front on the purchase of these assets, which they normally wouldn't be able to do if it wasn't structured properly. So now they have this massive tax break where they're not paying, they're paying minimal to no tax, but they're also creating an income stream for them and their families in the future, which is really cool.
Yeah. So I think the point is, not all income is equal and neither are investments. So just like brokers, John and I talk to you guys about, don't be sucked into all the usual bullshit, shiny object stuff every year, because those distractions keep you from being successful. And so what we're going to discuss at the event is all investments are not equal. They have different impacts, especially on taxes. And so the consequence of that is if you get to the learning curve sooner rather than later, you'll find out that taxes can become optional, but you don't get sucked into the typical formula. Well, you need to do a 401k and you need to maximize that. Maybe not. Right. So you need to be exposed to a different approach other than the standard ordinary stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, and the biggest thing too, not to interrupt you, John, I know you're about to say something big. The biggest thing is you want to work with somebody that's proactive with your taxes. And like John was referring to earlier, most tax preparers, most tax professionals, most CPAs are historians. They're like the guy in the museum. They're showing you the T-Rex that they erected from scraping it out of the ground. And here's a T-Rex. That's what most tax professionals are. They're looking at history, reflecting history, showing the history to the IRS, and going to you and filling out your forms and saying, hey, here's how much you owe. Now, as you are regardless if you're just starting out or you're further along in your success journey than others, you want to have somebody that's proactive where they're looking out for you and saying, hey, I know in the next 3 to 5 years, this is what you're planning to do. So why don't we start setting you up for success now by putting these structures in place and looking at these deductions and setting up your accounting and all these things in place now. So that way, when you hit these metrics, these KPIs within a year, 6 months, 2 years, 3 years, you're set up for success rather than you get to the point a year down the road and you're like, wow, I had a really great year. And wait a second, how much do I need to pay to the IRS? Right? When it comes to taxes, just like with advising your clients with their insurance decisions, it's better to be proactive than reactive.
Yeah. And I would say, hold on a second here. I would say that, that's great advice because, at High Stakes Advising, what we're doing is bringing ideas and strategies to the table that, I've learned, people that we use, things that I've learned along the way. You get the shortcut to the success because I had to learn this all the way. I had to find Eric. I've joined masterminds. I met Eric through somebody in Craig's son's mastermind friend. Like I had to find these people. I mean, I had a guy that I thought was great in New Jersey, and he worked for the IRS, and he wasn't afraid of fighting the IRS and taking massive deductions. But later, I find out that I shouldn't have been an LLC. I should have been an S corp, and it cost me, an extra 10 plus thousand, 7% on my income because he didn't tell me to be an S corp. It's like, whoa, you think the guy knew everything? But again, historian in that avenue. But there's so much. I mean, I don't get too excited, but what we're going to release at the event, which is going to be amazing, is you can take you can take your income, right? And remember, as you make more income, the top bracket is where they hit you. So we want to affect the top bracket. So fortunately, on the deduction, anything that's a deduction is coming off the top. So let's say you're in their crazy tax bracket over there. I'm in about 40 because I have no state tax, but I could take my money, put it in an investment, Chase, 10, 20% on the investment, right? And then get a deduction year one on that income. So I make 50% on on the investment just by putting in. Yeah, you pay the taxes later, but you're going to kick it down the road and maybe never pay it, which we'll talk about. And so you got this effect of saving 50% of your money, taking that 50%, putting in an investment and compounding it over 20, 30 years. When you add up the numbers, it's millions and millions of dollars. It's absurd. If you don't implement these strategies, you're out of your mind. But again, that's what we're going to talk about at the event. I'm not going to go in detail how to do it. But again, Eric had spoke to me and said, we can take that investment and, create some passive parts of your business. And so there's different ways to do it. You got to know how to do it. Just like you and I, right? You're an advisor, and we're thinking of ways to mitigate the claims, right? They have this total spend. How do we save money on the claims? Okay. It's the same thing from the tax standpoint. How do we save from the top down? It's just different strategies, different ideas. And in the tax world, laws change all the time. And so it's even more up to speed and upside down. So that's why I like younger people, because they're into it. They got to learn. They got to write business. Just like you and I, most of our clients, most of the guys like me, why I got into self-funding was I had to come up with an idea to lower healthcare costs. Or why would anybody do business with me when I'm new? They have brokers been in the business 20 years. They have a relationship. And so you have to have ideas. And so same thing with Eric trying to crack into the world of, the tax world. You better have some ideas and some value, or why would I want to do business with you? Now, he specifically works with entrepreneurs as well in our world. So again, I think we told him enough. Again, what do you think from a total standpoint? Can you help reduce? I know that's a loaded question, but lowering their total tax bracket and things like that now.
Yeah, like when it comes down to, a lot of folks say, Eric, what's the right entity or what's the right tax strategy for me? When they come up to me at an event, I'm like, the answer is it depends. Depends on your situation, what your family's goals are, what your goals are, and where you're looking to go. A company that is looking to have an exit and sell to a private equity firm or an IPO is very different than a lifestyle business. But typically what we've found, we work with a lot of clients from very different tax brackets. Some of the biggest celebrities in the world are our clients. If you know any of the big DJs out there, we do tax work for a lot of massive artists and DJs. Typically what we found is we've been able to help our clients reduce their tax rate by 20 to 30%, which is pretty substantial when you look at the amount of tax they're paid. And those that want to get a little bit more creative in where they invest their money, oftentimes we've been able to show them ways to zero out their tax liabilities in terms of how they're actively investing. So there's, at the end of the day, it depends. Your situation may be different, right? Your mileage may vary, but typically we find substantial savings actively for clients on a year-to-year basis. And those that are really interested in magnifying their wealth, we're often able to show them strategies and ways to minimize their tax close to near zero.
Great. And I'll make a, disclaimer. Those advisors out there that want cheap, they're using an accountant that they pay $2,000, they pay $4,000 to file their taxes. You're buying tax strategy plus, the filings, all that stuff. It's basically free because of the savings, but when you see the number front, it's not going to be cheap. So if you're in your head, I've spent $2,000, I don't want to spend more. This ain't right for you. Continue paying high taxes and go down that path and chase the lowest number out there, like the employers that chase the lowest rate from fully insured every year. Okay,
John,
open up your mindset. Go ahead,
Those
Craig.
guys are doing TurboTax themselves.
Yeah. When I hear people say that, I just do it on TurboTax, it's easy. I'm like, okay, you don't get it, that's fine.
Yeah.
You're not in that world yet where you're paying the taxes that we're paying. But
Absolutely.
it's a no-brainer. It's just like employers that are thinking, there's nothing I can do about to fix my healthcare costs, and they're spending, $120,000 on medications and going, I can't do anything. There's nothing I can do. I want to chase the best rebate I can get and the lowest script fee. Those are not the right brokers after mindset. A lot of our listeners are not. They're self-funded guys. This is a fit for you. Eric's going to give you the playbook, all the strategies. You want to do it with your guy, fine. You do it with him, great. If not,
this is super relevant, right? Mortgage rates have gone skyrocketing compared to where they were, right? Which means that if you're a Schedule C where you're showing net income, I mean, you need to get smart about how to show a higher net income, right? That old thing of, well, I don't pay any tax. I'm a Schedule C. You can't qualify for anything either if you don't show any net income on a Schedule C. So
right.
You need better ideas. You need more knowledge. So if you come, you'll learn.
100%. 100%.
Anybody that wants to reach out to Eric, he's going to be giving a special deal on his services for high stakes advising participants. So eventually your ticket's going to be free. Your savings is going to be free. If you go to the event, you engage with Eric. Those that don't, can't make it, kids, whatever, vacations, thecashflowdoctor.com. Okay. You can reach out to him. Margo, just put that into the chat right now for me. Check it out. Book a 15-minute call. As always, you got nothing to lose, and go from there. Eric, final thoughts here.
I think my biggest final thought is, again, like I've been in this space for 13 years now. We work with folks that are tremendously wealthy to folks that are just starting out with their businesses. It's really important, especially in today's environment where you do have this negative rhetoric around entrepreneurs and people that are, let's perceive to be wealthy. It's really imperative that each and every one of your high stakes advisors start looking at your taxes on a proactive basis and start looking at the strategies that you're using and really assess, are these strategies right for you? And are they going to be strategies that are going to continue to save you money? And if not, it may be time to invest. And because this is a business investment, this is a huge investment with an ROI. Is it time to invest into a proactive tax strategist to help you, number one, reduce your risk of audit, and number two, reduce how much you pay in taxes to Uncle Sam?
Absolutely. I think it's a no-brainer, and it's free. Basically, it's just like us working with advisors. The money we save you, it's like guaranteed. I'll put my money at risk. So those that don't know, high stakes advising, check it out, virtualliance.com, HSA 2023. Eric is going to be one of our great speakers, and he's going to give you the playbook. So make sure you check it out. Purchase tickets. We got a flu left. We're capping it at about 50 people, and we'll go from there. Eric, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All right, guys. See you next week. Same place, same time. Heads Up Advisor.
We're local.